In 1946, a LeTourneau scraper carved French hardpan by the hour, long after the war and decades before anyone used the phrase planned obsolescence. Today, machines built in the 1950s, once the backbone of massive projects from St. Lawrence to the Outback, are still earning their keep and outlasting successors designed to fail. But if these overlooked legends could survive 70 years of punishment, how did the industry forget how to build them? The answer lies in 10 forgotten scrapers that redefined forever, and their story shatters everything you think you know about durability. Wartime demand didn't wait for the perfect machine. In 1943, the LeTourneau Model LS rolled out of the factory, built for one job: keep pace with the front lines. 11 cubic yards per load, cable-controlled, no hydraulics anywhere, just steel, wire, and willpower. The United States Army ordered thousands, sending them to airstrips and supply roads from Normandy to the Pacific. Engineers didn't design for easy days. They knew a broken scraper could stall a landing strip, strand a convoy, or cost lives. Every component was overbuilt, frames thicker, bearings oversized, cables swapped in 20 minutes flat, even in mud or freezing rain. If a cable snapped, a field mechanic with a wrench and a little grit could have the LS back in action before the next truck arrived. By 1946, the war was over, but the work wasn't. In France, battered highways and runways needed rebuilding, often through ground so hard it snapped picks and shovels. The Model LS didn't blink. Operators, many new to heavy equipment, learned the controls in days. The cable system, simple and mechanical, almost impossible to truly kill, let them carve through hardpan hour after hour. The record books from those projects tell the story. The LS delivered what was asked, load after load, day after day, with breakdowns so rare they became legend. A wartime supervisor remembered, if you could drive a tractor, you could run an LS, and if you broke a cable, you fixed it and kept digging. This was a scraper built when failure meant more than lost profit. No planned obsolescence, no corners cut, just a promise: move earth, keep moving, and never let the job stop. That philosophy didn't fade with peace. The same Model LS units shipped off to post-war Europe turned up again in Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, still working decades later. The machines weren't designed for a product cycle. They were built to survive anything the world could throw at them. The Model LS set a standard: reliability under fire, durability by design, and a legacy measured not in years, but in generations of work. Highway crews in the early 1950s counted on one machine above all: the LeTourneau Model LP. With a 15 cubic yard bowl and a reputation for taking punishment, the LP became the backbone of the new Interstate system. It was not just bigger than its wartime predecessor, it was smarter. The secret lay in the bowl's curved floor. Instead of dirt sticking and stealing time, the curve let heavy clays and sticky soils slide free. That meant faster loading, less wasted horsepower, and more dirt moved each shift. Operators paired the LP with Cat D8s, a combination seen from California's sun-baked valleys to the muddy stretches of upstate New York. On a good day, a skilled crew could load, haul, and spread mile after mile of subgrade without ever unhooking the scraper. A foreman from a 1950s Ohio highway job remembered, "We ran those LPs hard, sun up to sundown. Never saw one down for more than a few hours, and most fixes you could handle with a crescent wrench and a length of wire." That was not just nostalgia talking. Field reports clocked some LPs at 15 years of daily work without a major overhaul. The design kept things simple: cable controls, no hydraulics, no fragile parts you could not fix on the job. If a cable frayed, you replaced it. If the bowl edge wore down, you welded on a new one. Everything else was built to shrug off years of vibration, dust, and grit. The LP's impact went far beyond American highways. Contractors shipped them to the Australian outback, the Canadian Shield, African mines, and South American dam sites. Wherever the ground was tough and spare parts were scarce, the LP thrived. Its curved floor made it just as valuable in sticky Queensland and clay as it was in the loam of Illinois. Operators learned to trust that if the tractor could pull, the LP would fill, no matter how far from the nearest dealer or machine shop. Decades later, some of those same LPs still turn up on farm roads and mining leases. Their longevity is more than luck. They were built in an era when downtime cost more than steel, and every design tweak had to pay for itself in dirt moved. For highway bosses, the LP was the machine that let them finish a job on time and under budget. For the men running them, it was the rare piece of equipment that earned respect with every load. Caterpillar's DW10 didn't just look different, it worked differently. In the early 1950s, engineers faced a bottleneck. Every time a towed scraper finished a haul, the crew had to stop, unhook, and reattach the tractor. That wasted minutes every cycle, adding up to hours lost every week. The DW10 changed the equation. With its bowl mounted low between the front and rear axles and an integrated engine up front, it could load, haul, and dump in one seamless motion. No more waiting for a push or fiddling with couplers. Operators noticed the difference right away. On moderate haul jobs, the DW10 delivered a 20 to 30% jump in productivity, a figure that made contractors sit up and pay attention. In 1952, Caterpillar's engineers flattened the bowl floor, replacing the old bell shape. That small change paid off in real-world dirt. Easier loading, less spillage, and a load that stayed balanced even on rough ground. The self-propelled concept wasn't just a gimmick. It let crews finish jobs ahead of schedule, using fewer hands and less fuel. One test site engineer put it plainly: "We used to lose time at every turn. With the DW10, you just kept moving." That relentless efficiency set the template for every motor scraper that followed. The DNA of the DW10, bowl between the axles, integrated drive, operator in command of every phase, runs through every modern scraper today. The machine didn't just save time. It proved that earth-moving could be faster, smoother, and smarter all at once. Machines like these are not just metal and horsepower. They are living proof of a time when builders expected their work to last generations. If stories of wartime Model LS or Model LP pulling double shifts on the Interstate bring back memories, you are in the right place. Maybe you ran one yourself, or remember a father, uncle, or neighbor who did. There is a whole world of history in these old scrapers, and every operator has a tale worth telling. If you are as fascinated by the grit and ingenuity of 1950s earth-moving as we are, hit subscribe and join the conversation. There is plenty more to come, machines that rewrote the rule, and one that made the push tractor a thing of the past. Drop your stories in the comments, share a photo, or just let us know which machine you think deserves the top spot. These are more than machines. They are chapters in the story of how the modern world was built. Stick around. The next scraper changed everything. On a balance sheet, the old push tractor fleets looked like a necessary evil. Every scraper needed a dozer to shove it full, and that meant more operators, more fuel, and more machines idling between cycles. Euclid's answer in 1949 was the 66 FD T16 SH Twin-Power, a machine that let accountants breathe easier and crews move more dirt for less money. The secret was two engines, a big Cummins diesel in the tractor, and a second engine riding in the scraper itself. When it was time to load, both engines worked together, digging a full 16 cubic yards struck, 21 heaped, without any outside help. Once the bowl was full, the scraper engine could be disengaged for the haul, saving hours and wear over the life of the machine. For contractors, the numbers added up fast. No more waiting for a push tractor to show up. No more juggling schedules or burning fuel on machines that spent half their day idling. The Twin-Power could load, haul, and dump independently, keeping cycle times steady and predictable. On the books, it cost less than running a separate scraper and push tractor pair, and in the field, it delivered consistent yardage shift after shift. Operators noticed the difference, but so did the folks in the office. Maintenance logs showed the scraper engine ran only when needed, racking up fewer hours before retirement. The Twin-Power's architecture, 2 engines with one purpose, proved you could cut fleet costs without cutting productivity. For the first time, the push tractor was out of a job, and the economics of earth moving were changed for good. Detroit diesel power changed the game for contractors facing brutal winters on the St. Lawrence Seaway. The Euclid 68 FDT 17SH, with its 17 cubic yard bowl and General Motors engines, was more than just a bigger Twin-Power. It was a machine built for reliability when temperatures dropped below zero. On those northern sites, cold starts were not just a nuisance. They could halt production for hours and cost thousands. Operators who had fought with bulky engines in the past found Detroit diesel engines would catch and run, even after a night of below-zero wind off the river. One procurement officer flipping through delivery logs put it plainly. They said they needed scrapers that did not care if the mercury fell out of the thermometer. The General Motors engines always turned over. That is why they bought them by the dozen. Fleet managers liked more than just the horsepower. With General Motors power plants in both tractor and scraper, mechanics could stock the same parts and train crews on one engine family. That meant less downtime, fewer mistakes, and a smoother supply chain, critical when everyday loss to repairs meant falling behind on a contract measured in millions. The Twin-Power flexibility, scraper engine engaged for loading and disengaged for the haul, meant less wear and longer life, especially in harsh conditions. Even today, collectors seek out these General Motors-powered variants as proof of a time when the right engine could mean the difference between a job done and a job stalled by winter. The 68 FDT 17SH was not just about size, it was about showing up every day, no matter the weather. On remote jobs where the nearest dealer was 1,000 miles away, the LeTourneau Model N became the mechanic's best friend. Introduced in the mid-1930s and built into the late 1950s, the Model N covered a sweet spot, 7 to 14 cubic yards, matched to whatever tractor power was on hand. That range made it a staple from Australian sheep stations to South American highways and African mines. The real story, though, was not just the numbers. It was how these machines kept working long after others were parked for good. Cable controls on the Model N were famously straightforward. If a line snapped or a pulley seized, a field mechanic could splice a new cable or weld up a fix with whatever was on the truck. No waiting for factory parts, no special fittings. The bowl, the frame, and every hinge were overbuilt to shrug off rocks and ruts. On one Queensland cattle station, a Model N spent 3 decades moving dam clay with nothing more than a few home-welded patches and a steady hand on the cable lever. When LeTourneau sold his earth-moving division to Westinghouse in 1953, production did not pause for a day. Model N scrapers rolled out under new ownership, unchanged, because the design did not need improving. Through the 1960s and 70s, these machines outlasted trendier models, surviving on farms and mines where repair meant ingenuity, not a service call. Even now, a handful still earn their keep, proof that a cable scraper built, right and fixed with a welder's torch could keep moving Earth for generations. Earth-moving in the 1950s wasn't just about machines. It was about the people who ran them, and the memories built along the way. For some, the smell of diesel and the whine of a cable winch bring back days spent on sun-baked highways or muddy job sites, learning the ropes from a father or an old hand. Maybe you remember a favorite seat on a Model N, or the first time you watched a Twin-Power fire up both engines before dawn. These stories aren't in the manuals or spec sheets. They are passed down over coffee at the diner or in a faded photo tucked in a toolbox. If you've got a story about running a LeTourneau, a cat, or a Euclid, whether it's a close call, a trick for splicing cable, or just a memory of a long day that ended with the job done, share it in the comments. Maybe you never ran a scraper yourself, but you remember the machines working the fields behind your house, or the sight of a convoy rolling through town on its way to the next big job. Every story adds to the living history of these machines and the era they shaped. There is a whole generation of knowledge out there, and it deserves to be heard. If you have a photo, a story, or even just a name to remember, drop it below. These scrapers built more than roads, they built memories worth sharing. Operators climbing into a Caterpillar DW15, DW20, or DW21 in 1958 found themselves at the center of a quiet revolution. The secret was geometry, a bowl set lower than anything before, cutting the path from ground to load edge almost in half. On a hot day in Kansas or a damp morning in Ohio, that mattered. Shorter lift meant less strain, faster fills, and smoother cycles, even in sticky clay or heavy gravel. The low bowl design did not just change how dirt moved, it changed how operators felt at the end of a shift. With the bowl tucked low between the axles, visibility improved and the seat rode steadier, cutting down on the jolts that left backs aching by sundown. Cable controls got a subtle overhaul too. Reduced friction guides and a smarter lever layout meant hands worked with the machine, not against it. One veteran who logged thousands of hours behind a WWII remembered, "You didn't have to fight it. You just leaned into the levers and let the bowl do the work." That mattered on the new interstate jobs, where every load counted and fatigue could mean mistakes. The low bowl cat was not just about moving more earth, it was about making the job less of a grind, one shift at a time. The timing could not have been better. The Federal Aid Highway Act put thousands of miles of new road on the map, and contractors needed machines that could keep up. From the DW15 to the DW21, Caterpillar covered every capacity, letting crews match the right machine to the haul. Production numbers soared. Thousands rolled out of Peoria, showing up on every major highway build from coast to coast. For many operators, these were the first scrapers that felt designed with the person in the seat in mind. Comfort, control, and speed were not just sales pitches. They were built into the steel. The low bowl concept did not fade with the 1960s. It became the industry standard, copied and refined, but never really improved upon. Even now, the DNA of those 1958 cats lives on in every modern scraper that puts operator comfort and efficient loading at the heart of its design. Dam builders in the mid-1950s needed a scraper that could take whatever the job site threw at it. Soft cuts, rocky fills, or endless cycles on a muddy runway. That is where the Euclid S18 earned its reputation. With a two-axle overhung design and an 18 cubic yards struck capacity, this was not a machine for small jobs or timid operators. The S18 demanded a tractor with real muscle, at least 200 horsepower, the kind of pull only a Cat D8 or bigger could deliver. Once hooked up, though, it was all business. The weight of the bowl and its overhung axle gave the S18 a stability that operators trusted when loading on slopes or dumping at the edge of a dam core. Even fully loaded, the scraper tracked straight, held its line, and did not bounce or fishtail when the ground got rough. A project specialist on a Western airport job remembered that you could fill an S-18 to the top, haul it down a grade, and never feel it sway. The frame was so heavy, it soaked up the shock from every rut and boulder. That brute strength was not just for show. Components were sized for punishment. Axle housings, drawbars, and bowl sides all built thicker than the competition. Operators joked you could lose a tooth on the cutting edge and keep running until the end of the contract. Maintenance logs from airport and dam sites tell the same story: slow wear, few failures, and a machine that kept earning its keep long after lighter rigs were in the boneyard. The oversizing approach meant parts could take abuse, and field repairs were simple and effective. It is an example of engineering for punishment, rather than for planned replacement. The S-18 size and stability made it a favorite for big earth-moving, runways, lock approaches, military bases, and the sprawling interchanges that reshaped American cities. On those projects, contractors measured success by the yard, not the hour, and the S-18 delivered. Properly maintained, these scrapers racked up tens of thousands of hours, sometimes outlasting the tractors that pulled them. The oversizing strategy paid off in longevity. Even decades later, heavy equipment collectors and restoration crews seek out S-18 machines as proof that once upon a time, machines were built to shrug off abuse and keep moving dirt year after year. Ask any fleet manager who has spent a lifetime keeping scrapers on the job, and one name always earns a nod of respect: the Euclid TS series. Launched in 1954, this single-axle overhung tractor design rewrote the rules for what a scraper could be, and then kept proving itself for half a century. Contractors bought them by the hundreds for mining in Australia, resource jobs in Canada, and highway work across the United States. The formula was simple: a robust frame, straightforward controls, and an architecture that did not need reinventing every decade. In an era when most machines got a fresh badge or a new gimmick every few years, the TS stuck to what worked. The first TS models relied on cable controls and mechanical transmissions, making them easy to fix with basic tools and a little know-how. As technology advanced, so did the TS. Hydraulics and power shift gears were added, but the bones of the machine stayed the same. That meant a mechanic trained on a 1950s TS could walk up to a 1980s model, or even a model from the 2000s, and still recognize every major system. For fleet managers, it was a dream: one parts inventory, one training program, and a machine that just kept going year after year. Production ran into the 2000s under Terex, a span of more than 50 years. That is not marketing hype. It is a record of real machines working through 5 decades of upgrades without ever losing the core that made them legendary. Today, TS scrapers from every decade can be spotted earning their keep, hauling dirt on farms from the 1950s, running highways in the 1980s, or even in modern rental fleets. The secret was not complexity or constant reinvention. It was a design that solved real problems and refused to wear out. For anyone who has ever had to keep a fleet moving, the TS series is proof that sometimes the best answer is to build it right the first time and then never let go of what works. If hearing about these machines brings back memories, or if you just appreciate the kind of engineering that refuses to quit, now's the time to hit that like button. Every thumbs up helps keep stories like these alive, and it tells us there is still an audience for the real history of earth-moving. Maybe you worked on a crew that kept a Model N running with little more than a welder and some stubbornness. Maybe your family has a faded photo of a Euclid lined up on a dam site, or a story about a cat, WWII, that never once missed a shift. These are not just machines, they are part of a shared legacy, built by hands that knew what it meant to do a job right, and see it last. If you have a story, a memory, or a question about these old scrapers, drop it in the comments. Every story helps fill in the picture of how these machines shaped roads, farms, and communities. If your dad or grandfather ran one, or if you have a tip about keeping cable controls running smooth, do not keep it to yourself. Share it. The history of these scrapers is not just written in manuals or production records. It is passed down in stories, photos, and the lessons learned on the job. Stick around. The next machine on our list defined an era, a cable masterpiece that still makes operators shake their heads in respect. In 1955, a new name appeared on the scraper market, but the DNA was pure LeTourneau. After Westinghouse took the reins, the CT and DT series rolled out, machines built when the rest of the industry was already eyeing hydraulics, but these were cable-controlled to the very end, and they made the most of it. The CT hit the sweet spot for contractors, not too big, not too small, just right for the bulk of highway, dam, and infrastructure work. The DT went even further, matching the biggest bowls Caterpillar or Euclid could offer. Both series took the lessons of the past and doubled down. Frames heavier than ever, steel thicker, every weld and forte sized for punishment. Geometry was not just guessed at, it was optimized, so the bowl filled quick, dumped clean, and did not fight the operator at the lever. What set these scrapers apart was not just the numbers on a spec sheet. It was how they felt on the job. Operators who ran both old and new models noticed the difference. The controls were smoother, the cable runs shorter and better protected. The whole machine felt like it was designed by someone who had spent long days in the seat. Part support was legendary. Decades of technical assistance kept even early machines running well into the age of hydraulics. Into New Zealand, CT models imported in the late 1950s are still earning their keep in 2025, not as museum pieces, but as working tools moving dirt on jobs where reliability matters more than a shiny logo. Collectors and restorers talk about these machines the way old-timers talk about a favorite pair of boots, worn, patched, but never replaced. The CT and DT series stand as the last great expression of cable scraper design. Their survival is not an accident. It is proof that when you build with extra steel, a little humility, and a lot of practical know-how, you get machines that do not just outlast a decade, they outlast generations. In a world where planned obsolescence became the norm, these scrapers are a stubborn rebuke, still working, still earning, 70 years later. Today, 70-year-old scrapers still earn their keep, while modern equipment is often replaced every decade. As industries chase efficiency, the value of longevity is quietly lost. These machines prove that building for generations, not just bottom lines, is possible and needed. What we choose to preserve or discard shapes the world we leave behind. Share your stories below. History lives in the hands that remember.